The misconception is, oh, I have a bad location. I have employees that don't work. Maybe my product wasn't good enough. The government was against me, and the economy. And there's all these excuses people give for why 80% of small businesses end up in the tank. The real reason is because they failed to craft a message heard above the noise being everybody else who's doing the exact same thing as you. Those that are able to cut through the noise and be heard are the ones that get remembered, they get revisited, they make money, and they survive. Some thrive. But it's really more about the message and whether humans remember them or have forgotten them as soon as the poor message was received and it didn't do any good. It fell on deaf ears because it wasn't interesting. And what we try to show people is there's a right way and a wrong way to make yourself interesting. If left to your own devices, more than likely, you're going to do it the wrong way because it's the logical thing to do. But nobody buys on logic. They never have and they never will.
My wife and I were having a discussion the other day, and we said, doesn't it feel good to point the finger and blame at somebody? To pass all that responsibility out there to somebody else, and you start to feel really good. And one lady came to my training during the pandemic. She said, Daniel, I was really excited to come to your training because I was going to find new ways to blame other people for the way that my life is. She said, but once I came to your training, I realized I couldn't do that anymore. But there's an element of feeling good about pointing that finger. And our family, we owned a pawnbroking business for 17 years. And out the front of the shop, it had these big blue letters that said licensed pawnbroker and secondhand dealer. And after 13 and 14 years, people were still walking down the street and walking straight past us. And then once in a blue moon, somebody would come in and say, oh my gosh, I've been looking for a pawnbroker for 13 years. I didn't even know you were here. And so out of desperation, we changed the marketing message. And I said to my mum, let's paint the front of the shop bright orange, like a neon sign. And I'm going to put some big letters out the front. And the words said instant cash loans. And as soon as we changed that message, people started to flood through the doors. And it was such a simple message because instead of telling them, what we are, licensed pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers, we talked to them, we got above the noise, and we said, this is what we do, instant cash loans. And that was the language of the customer. I want to get a cash loan. I want to get a cash loan. And it changed it. And that was probably make or break point for our business as well. We just didn't know how to get there. It was by accident. We eventually got there, but it could have led to disaster.
Well, that story, believe it or not, is the same exact story of most of the billion-dollar brands that exist today. The difference between a billion-dollar brand and us is they have the ability to spend money to keep trying new ideas one after the other until they hit one, and they get the slot machine that just keeps paying off. But the small businesses don't have that luxury. But almost every big brand you see had the exact same problem. Marlboro, 30 years, nobody would smoke the cigarette. Nobody was buying Geico car insurance here in the U.S. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. FedEx was on the verge of bankruptcy. Nike, the stock was plummeting. Xerox, stock plummeting. And so many products until the magic formula was lucked upon or found. And you just made a comment that you to the greed factor, we'll give you money. Come on in here. We got money to buy stuff. And greed is one of the 15 archetypes that we have found that have sold everything on the planet Earth. If you reduce all the ads down to what made them work, there's 15 emotions. Those 15 emotions sell everything, always have, always will. Greed is one of them. I want more. Give me more. Is there more? There is. Well, then give me some. And everybody thinks that way. When you archetypically position your brand correctly around the right emotion, you sell more instantly, as you found out. You didn't have to wait long. It happens fast. But if you don't luck into that like you did, you could literally spin your wheels and waste your money for years trying to find that formula. We have them all, and we're here to share them. But that's a great story. It's very true.
The word greed I believe, triggers a negative thought pattern for a lot of people. But when we talk about greed, greed's actually a positive word. And all of us are driven by a long list of wants and needs. And if you want to have a better life, then that's an example of greed, but it's a positive thing. And we talk about in recruitment, you don't want the needy, you want the greedy. You want these people who are driven by this long list of wants and needs. I don't want a 3-bedroom home. I want a 5-bedroom home. I don't want my kids to go to public school. I want them to go to private school. I don't want to drive the old beat up Datsun. I want to drive the Nissan 300ZX. I want the best. I want more sales, more money, more opportunity. And it's actually a very positive word once you start to peel away your own fears and doubts and limiting beliefs about the word. And it's so important that if you're in business, you've got to want at least 30% more every year. If you're not growing by at least 30%, then you're going to go back. So you've got to have more. And it was like in our business, in the family business, we needed more. Tax was going up, cost was going up, fuel was going up, milk and bread's going up. We needed more. And we got there. Yeah. But we could have got there a lot earlier because, like we said, it was just by default. It wasn't by design.
The fact, yeah, you bring up a good point. You know, greed sounds awful. Oh, it's greed. You know what? These emotions I speak of, these 15, they're primal. They're innate. You're born with them. I don't necessarily want all of your stuff. I don't want to take it from you. I just know there's more out there. And if I work a little harder, I'll get it. Or make the right decisions, I'll get it. Buy the right product. Go to the right store. They have more over at this store. And so a lot of our archetypes are built around positive as well as negative. Pleasure, pain. We have more. We have greed. We have envy. Okay. We have temptation in the list. We also have affinity and excitement and altruism and community. And so we're motivated as humans by these triggers, whether you like them or not. And your customers are too. So you might as well learn this because this is what's going to work for you. Ignore the label, study the feeling. And that's what we teach is, whatever we call it is just what we call it. But what it does for people, that's what you want to know. That's what's important. That's what moves businesses from the doldrums to that hockey stick growth curve that everybody says, how did they do it? A lot of the generational, the newcomers that are just, reaching their 20s and 30s today, they don't know that FedEx was almost broke. They just thought they were born rich. These big brands that they've inherited in their life, they have no clue how hard it was for even those brands to make it and how many did not. Well, the ones that made it figured out those emotions. And there's a reason why Skittles tells you to taste the rainbow. It's not because you can. It's silly. It's absolute silly. Red Bull does not give you wings. But it sounds good. It associates happiness, excitement. A rainbow sounds like a better thing than nothing, than sugar-coated candy. And the more you learn how to associate to the positive emotions or even the negative ones that motivate you to avoid pain, the faster you'll get to wherever you want to go. And I wish schools would teach that because it would change the game for a lot of people.
I had a very good schooling in real estate, and my boss from day one, he said, don't sell the sausage, sell the sizzle. And it was a big concept. And eventually, after trial and error, I figured out what it was. It was selling the benefits. It was selling the results. It was selling the improvement. It was selling the transformation. It was selling that feeling. And in real estate, I was able to go from a new performer to an average performer really fast. And then from an average performer to a high performer. I had the same product, the same service, the same price, the same obstacles, the same objections in the marketplace, but I focused on selling the sizzle. And the sizzle wasn't just about the person selling the property. It was about what they were going to do after that. It was also about the sizzle of working with Daniel. And I had to be able to come up with a very interesting combination. And once I did that, my marketing took off. And my personal brand also took off. And I went from an agent who would have averaged 3 to 4 sales to doing 7 to 8 sales every single month, and then having a best month ever where I sold 13 properties, which was a big thing 20 years ago. It was a huge thing. But same product, same service, same price, same problems, but my personal brand. And I figured out what those emotions were. And I learned how to make an impact. But that's a concept. And people want to know the process. Well, how do you do it? How do you do those things? So from your perspective, how do you connect with prospects and how do you make an impact?
It's excuse me, it's a weird thing at first. You have two brains. You have your conscious mind, your logical brain. You have your subconscious mind, your illogical mind, irrational, the emotional side of you, and more the fact-based side of you, let's say. And the fact-based side of you wants to analyze everything and tell you, give you some sort of opinion or triage in your brain of whether that's a good selling point or not. And it just thinks like that. But it can't decide. It has no ability to make a purchase decision. So if you're feeding people facts, you're getting a lot of no's. When you feed them the emotions of those facts, you can still get the facts across, but you have to do it emotionally. All of a sudden they want it. All of a sudden the subconscious mind has no ability to wrestle with facts. It goes on feelings, fears, phobias, and things like that, the things you can feel. And so when you present your product emotionally, you're appealing to the subconscious mind, the only part of your mind that has the credit card. And that's business 101. Preach to the customers what they need to hear. Don't ever lie, but frame it in their worldview so that they say, that's exactly what I was looking for. How did you know? Well, I'll take 2 of those. Because for the first time, somebody actually explained it in a way that made sense to their subconscious purchasing brain. And if you pay $50,000 to an ad agency, they will do an excellent job and they will come to that same conclusion for you and they'll show you how to do it. We'll show you how to do it for free. And we're going to give away a website at the end of the podcast. But we'll show you how to just go take a free test that's online that will point out those things to you right now. You don't have to pay us $50,000. You don't even have to pay us $1. But that's kind of the secret, isn't it? We're thinking people most of the time. But when it comes to a decision, we're totally irrational, illogical, and subconscious. And that's the trick. When you write an ad, most small business people will sit there and say, okay, I'm going to write an ad. Here's a fact about me, another fact about me. Here's what we did. Here's our promotion on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we were nominated best of in our community. All great news, all putting people to sleep. It's the book report that nobody wants to read. Instead, it should have been, you can get this. You will feel this way. You will change and transform instantly. You will be happy. Okay? It's that simple. And that's why it escapes a lot of conscious thinking, smart people. It seems too simple. It seems too juvenile. It can't just be that. Throw a couple of the right emotions in there and all of a sudden they start buying. That's why Skittles says taste the rainbow and they make $1 billion doing that. It works. You just have to know which emotions, and that's what we can tell you.
Mm. In emotional intelligence, we talk about the 5 pillars. And the first one is self-awareness, knowing why you think and feel the way that you do. The second pillar is self-regulation. It's being able to regulate those thought and feeling impulses. And a lot of people get stuck in a mental rut. They just loop around in the same negative thoughts. They start to think that I'm never going to be successful. Then they start to fear failure and they get stuck in that loop. The third pillar of emotional intelligence is motivation. But oftentimes when we think about motivation, we think of this jump up and down Tony Robbins seminar thing. But how I like to frame it is it's resilience. It's being able to get knocked down and get back up and try something new. It's being able to try one marketing technique, figuring out the feedback, and then trying another one. Just as you mentioned before with these big brands, they all got close to failure, but they just had enough resilience to try something new. They got out of their comfort zone and they did something different. And then we also have what's called social awareness, understanding why other people think and feel the way that they do. What makes them tick? What keeps them awake up at night? What are their fears? What are their frustrations? What are those wants? What are those aspirations? What can't they tell their best friend? What can't they tell their partner? And then finally, we talk about social regulation. And this is your ability to communicate your message in a way that other people say, I get it. Not here, but here. Yeah, I can feel it. It makes sense to me. And what I'm hearing here is that this type of marketing is really emotionally intelligent. One, you've got to understand yourself, and there can be no misunderstanding about who you are and what you do. And then secondly, I'm hearing that you've got to be able to understand your customer in no uncertain terms and understand what makes them tick. And this sounds to me like emotionally intelligent marketing.
It's a good point. Here's the good news, because as you know, there's so many tests out there that can help us understand our own emotional selves and personality tests and the whatnot. And we preach a primitive gospel, caveman level, and we're a tech company. But what we're teaching you is what's been around for thousands of years. Maybe that knowledge has been lost on somebody, but it isn't common knowledge that emotions move the human race, not just in business and buying stuff, but your personal life and everything else that's going on in politics and the world. It's all emotionally driven. There's almost the more emotion, the less facts, right? It seems as we watch the CNN, and you wonder where the facts are sometimes. It just seems like everybody making emotional moves. You have to understand that. And the more you understand the emotions of you, awesome. But you're right. You have to understand the emotions of the humans. Now, here's the good news. They haven't changed in thousands of years. They're not going to change. Technology's changed since we started the podcast today. It's already moved. And technology makes its money staying ahead of you so that you pay because you don't have that tech yet. So you're always catching up to it. You never quite catch tech, right? It's just always ahead. Emotions, I advise you to get off the bullet train that's going 400 miles an hour every once in a while and just sit back and go, okay, what do these people want? Every one of my customer has some monsters under the bed. And all they want from me is to make the monster under the bed go away. That's all they want. So if everything I say gets rid of the monster, I'm going to make a sale today, right? But if I talk about how many monsters we've cleared in our 25 years of brilliance, and we started going into all the details, everyone goes, it's not for me. So the emotions are forever, and that's how we built the company. It took 3 years just to identify the 15 emotions that have sold everything on earth, because there's a lot of emotions. There's hundreds. You can name hundreds. Anybody can. Not only do you need to know the 15, but which of the 15 are the ones that are going to be my secret sauce? Because not all of these apply to me, even if though we've got 15 great ones, I may only need a handful. And that's what we can show you. Because it's like a water. If you H2O is water, H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide. Just a minor change in the formula creates a lethal drug or lethal substance. Same thing in your emotional formula. Minor change in the ad campaign or the feeling of the campaign or the whatever they're saying. All of a sudden you have a complete change in the results. For once it lined up with what they want. And when that happens, you have a state of admanity, we call it. And at that point, you can't do anything but make sales. And the best products are almost never the products that win. If it was the best products that had to win, everyone else would just quit because they would all lose. It's not the best products. McDonald's is not the best hamburger. Jack Daniels, I love you, but you're not the best whiskey, right? And Pizza Hut, not the best pizza, yet they are number one, number one, number one. They understand the emotions that sell their products 1,000 times more important than the details of those products.
One of the 7 things I learned about all humans is that we're ignorant. And we just don't know what we don't know. And I'd spoken to a very successful businessman who built a business to $200 million in sales in just a few years. And he said to me, Daniel, it's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you don't know that hurts you. And I've personally been through your yes test. And when I went through this yes test, I put my hand over my mouth and I went, oh my gosh, these are all the things that I knew, but I couldn't articulate. And because I couldn't articulate it, I couldn't put it into practice. And I said to my wife, I said, this yes test has made the invisible visible for our business. And I want to share the yes test with us now. And I'd love you to step me through it so we can show people what they can do for free that most marketing agencies would charge them more than $50,000. But better than that, my results were back to me within 5 minutes. And I read it and I read it and I read it and I went, yes, 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 this is me. This is everything I've been trying to say, but I haven't been able to say it. So this is the yes test. And these are my results. And I'd love you to step us through, Brian, what this is doing for business people like myself.
Absolutely. This result is 6, 7, 8 pages. It depends on you. Everyone takes their own unique journey through the test. The test gives you questions based on how you've answered previous questions. So even if 2 people work for the exact same company, take the test on the same day, they will take a different journey through the test. They probably get the same answer in the end, but it's their own journey. So the results that you're showing here are unique to you and no one else. The wording, everything. So it's a real nice thing to hang on to, and we give you a dashboard so that you never lose it, of course. But you've come out here as the attraction brand, the brand of change, transformation, and improvement. We call you the patron of passions, because if you're into change, transformation, and improvement, I guarantee you one thing, you're passionate about this business. You couldn't do it otherwise. And so we're trying to get you into the right ballpark. You're in the attraction ballpark now. We didn't know that before the test. Now we do. Now the strategies are starting to make sense. The words, the colors, and all the other things. So you see all those words down the right side. You could have been any of those, but you weren't. You became attraction. And now that you're the attraction brand, you can scroll down a little bit and we start to show you some of the tips. So now that we know what you are, we'll show you what you stand for. We'll show you some of the words just so you can kind of, have some synonyms to help you, understand where you are on the spectrum. But the purpose of the yes test is to tell you why somebody would actually say yes to you in business. And an attraction brand is preaching a gospel of, I can make you better in some way, or your brand, I can improve your company. And a lot of people would say, well, I think I failed at that, or other people have said that and they weren't able to do it. There's doubt. Change is not easy for most people. Therefore, the attraction brand, in your case, has to use certain tactics because not everybody embraces change, right? Some people get dragged kicking and screaming. So you'll see 20, 30, 40 recommendations in this report right away. You can walk away and never see us again. It's absolutely free. We didn't ask you for anything. And you'll be better off. And I've seen people make notes on these little reports that are unbelievable comments and highlighting it because it's, like you said, it confirms some things you kind of thought you knew. And now you're sure. And it brought up some things that you had no idea you should be doing. And now you're curious. Now you're excited because now it's like, oh boy, I have the answers to the test. No one ever gave me answers before. And that's where we wanted to make sure when we did this, we didn't just say, you're the attraction brand. Aren't you great? You're all about change and transformation. We could have left it there and it'd be the same as any Facebook quiz you've ever taken. A waste of time. We're giving you
Mm.
actionable steps here. And this is only 2% of what we can give you. Trust me, there is way more, but just on your first day in school, this is what you need to read so you don't get overwhelmed. We're not trying to make this a PhD level. You've read it. Anybody can read these reports, and scroll down a little farther and they can maybe just see
These
some.
primal triggers here, that word change, this is a word that
Yeah,
our prospects have used for the past decade. I want to
good.
change who I am. I want to make a change in my business. I want to make a change in my mental and emotional state. And that's a key word that people use. The primal trigger. Also the keywords. Growth. This is one that the prospect uses. I've heard this. I've got it written down on papers all through my office. They want guidance. Sexy? Well, that's my wife. But they feel sexy.
Well,
They want to be motivated. They want improvement, transformation, breakthrough, mentorship, and even sexy. I wrote a book years ago and it was called Win Sales Now. And we talked about marriage material, and marriage material correlated directly to social media. So my wife and I, what we realized was that when we demonstrated some really classy photos of ourselves and our family, people were really attracted to that. And we could put content and information about making a change in your life, but you'd get 100 comments on the photo. And they'd say, gee, your wife's sexy. So these are the words that we've personally heard over years, but you don't know me, your system doesn't know me, but your technology could articulate things that I've got written all over my paper. It's like a little spy camera in the corner of my office. Phenomenal.
we've actually had people accuse us of spying on them or scraping their websites. Trust me. The interesting thing about the test is, we don't ask you what business you're in at any point during the test. There is no way for us to fake this result based on your category. And you could lie to us at that. So, it really is the emotional chewy center of what your brand is. You're about change. Now, the next question is, okay, how do I make sure I sell that properly so that everybody that needs change gets it and gets it from me, right? And so the attraction archetype, and by the way, the attraction archetype is more than just what you do. If you owned a diet center, that's physical change. If you owned a fitness center, that's physical change. If you were Tony Robbins, that would be a sort of a spiritual, emotional change in the game. If you sold a sexy line of clothing, okay, that's changing in your outward appearance. So any brand that promotes change in the customer can use these strategies. Now, these are yours in your report, but I'm just saying, in general speaking, we help many, many types of businesses with each of these archetypical categories. And so that's how it's done, because all they want is change in the diet center. I guarantee you, I want to change the way I look if I'm in your diet center right now. Okay, well, the same tactics work on that person as the one who's down the street saying, I want to change my look, or I want to change my business results. Okay, so change is a big, big word, and it encompasses a lot. And you're scrolling through, there's little tidbits of, wisdom in there. And, if, like you said, if you read this, it makes a lot of sense to the person who just took the test, whoever they are.
Yep. I sat with my team yesterday and we were doing our weekly team meeting, and I shared the screen as I did the yes test, and I said, we're going to do this now and I'll respond. And now all of them have a copy of this, and I've sent it to them, and I said, based on the yes test, I want you to read it, and I want you to come back to me with 3 or 4 improvements that we need to make in our business. So the 4 of us will sit down today and we'll start to brainstorm some things we can do. My wife and I, after breakfast this morning, she made me scrambled eggs. And I said, we need to look through this report and we need to make some changes, because it's been able to articulate some of the challenges that we've had. And so even the conversation has started. And again, it's free. People would pay $50,000 for this, but you get it within 5 minutes. It's instant. And you can start to make those improvements. And I think every business needs this. They need to start here to understand who they are and to understand what you need to be doing to give yourself the best shot at success.
Yeah, and I love that one
It's
you're
phenomenal.
showing right now, that advertising, the only game on earth where it's always your move. This is just one of our platitudes, but it is so true, isn't it? I mean, no one's going to do it for you. And if you don't do it, the guy next door to you does it and he beats you. So, there's always more to get. It's just a question of whether you're reaching for it, or you're going to let somebody else have it. If you wait long enough and don't do something, someone will just copy your business exactly and just do it decently better and break you that way. So it's important that people realize these triggers that we all have in us. That's a great one there. Advertising is 99% perception. The other 1% is knowing that. What do we mean by that? We're saying basically what they think of you is what you are to them. If they perceive you to be a great brand, you are. If they perceive you to be a one-star brand, you are. It's not your fault maybe, but it is your problem. And perception in advertising is everything. Don't lie. You never need to lie. When you're using emotional tactics, people just believe. But you have to realize that the perception of your brand is 10 times more important than the actual reality of it. Unfortunately, most businesses advertise the reality. They give you the reality report of their brand, and that's why their ads don't work. So we're here to fix that and turn it the other way.
Yep. I think every business owner on the planet who's spent any money on advertising can agree with this. And when we had our family business, we advertised in yellow pages and the phone didn't ring. We advertised at the football field and the phone didn't ring. We sponsored the local cinema and the ads and the phone didn't ring. And we got to the stage where we said, this is not working. It's not that it didn't work. There was a lot of people who were getting rich. It was that we just were doing it wrong. But once we changed that message to instant cash loans, the business grew organically. People stopped, looked and said, yes, that's what I want, walked into the shop. The next person would walk past and say, I've been walking past here for 17 years. I need a cash loan. And they walked in. And instead of having to sell like the Apple store, we were just order takers. It was beautiful. We stopped selling. Okay, just take your order, tell me what you want. It's this amount, no more selling. And that was a big improvement on our mental and emotional health, because before you felt like you're a vendor trying to flog stuff on the corner, sell, sell, sell. But when you can go to an order taker like the Mac store, and if anybody's been to the Apple store, you walk in, they don't have salespeople. They just have order takers. And you say, I want this, and I want this, and they ring it up and away you go. And that's great business. That's a much better business to have.
I'll build on that comment. Some people listening to this might say, well, I'm a salesperson for a company. I don't advertise. I don't need to have a brand, study. And, so, it's really not for me. Let me share one story with you. The elements of persuasion don't change because you're in an email or you're in a social media post or a full page ad in a magazine, TV or radio, or on the phone talking to your prospect. Humans are humans. They respond to the same emotions the same way. That's why advertising works around the world. If it didn't, it would be chaos. It wouldn't work. Nobody would do it. But because it does work, and more or less the same on most people, it's very, very effective. Now, you can take the same principles we give you and apply them to just speech patterns as you're talking to somebody. I had a guy that said, look, I got a room full of salespeople. They're on the phone all day. They don't listen to me. I'm the manager. What can I do? I said, convert what's in your report to sales tactics on the phone. Just tell them to say it happily. Tell them to use altruism in this particular moment of the pitch. Just use the same emotions, but you're speaking it. And sales went dramatically up for that company. So it's changed the way we do business, because for the first time, they're actually saying something that the guy on the phone, other end of the phone, wants to hear. We were bragging all day to these people. We were telling them how great we were. Biggest mistake in marketing is bragging about yourself. It doesn't work. It sounds good, and I know it's sometimes you want to say, hey, we're number one, or we won an award. That give you some confidence. But I would still phrase it differently. The reason we won an award is because all of our clients are happy. Keep pulling it back to what they're going to feel, not what you do or did or want. Most ads are structured with what the business wants, and that's why they don't work. They have to be structured to what the consumer wants or the buyer. What do they want? What's their fantasy? Ask them. It's a great exercise one day. You get some people in a room and say, hey, if I could wave a magic wand, give you everything you want with our product, what would it be?
Let's ask them today. Let's get the magic wand out.
There you go. You got me there. I don't even have a magic wand. But
you got to get one.
I got to get one. If you ask these people what they want, it would read like a ransom note. Well, I want it free. I want a money back guarantee. I want it to give me, sun, moon, and stars. I want all these features that you probably don't even have built into the product. Okay. But that'll tell you two things. One, it tells you what they want right now, and you better find something you can say to deliver to that. Also, it'll tell you what will sell your product in the future. Maybe you should start working on some of those ideas. Now, you may not be able to make it free, but you could give them a free month trial. And you could say, that's like getting the product for free for 30 days. Free for 30 days. That's what they're going to hear. So you hear what you want to hear in a pitch. I don't care who it is. If they keep hearing what they like, they buy every time. If they keep hearing what you like, they may never buy. It's psychology 101. And unfortunately, none of us were trained in it. That's why we give you the formulas, because we don't want to send you to school. We just want to say, here's the formulas. You're taking the test. This is you. Here's your formulas. We're done. Thank you. Hope you go make $1 million.
It was in 2016 that I was working with a psychologist, and she took me through a behavioral profile. And I spent 15 minutes going through the behavioral profile. I got a 60-page report on how I think, feel, and behave. And when I went through the report, I was saying, yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's me. And I was blown away by the accuracy of this report. And once I tasted that report, I wanted it for my family and friends. And I'd learned just a couple of small things about my personality trait, which enabled me to leverage that and use it more often. And it led me to a $100,000 improvement in my sales in the next 6 months. And the back-end sales of the business, by the time people repurchased, led to a $240,000 improvement in the first year. And I just learned a couple of things. And once I had that report in my hands, I wanted it for my family and I wanted it for my friends. And I reached out to my mum and I said, you got to take this assessment. I reached out to all of my customers. I said, I want all of you to do this. And once they took the report, they started to have these immediate breakthroughs. Yes, 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 that's me. And then we all went on that journey together. And what I want, Brian, for my family, for my friends, for my followers, for my community, for my clients, is I want them all to take the yes test. I've taken it. I believe in it. My wife has been through it. We said yes, yes, yes the whole way. And now we want our people to have a copy of this yes test. So how can I get it into their hands?
Very, very simply. Anybody listening right now, please write this down or type it into your browser. freeyestest.com. Just go to freeyestest.com. You give us your name and email because we're going to send you some things, but instantly you'll take the test right away. 5 minutes later, as you mentioned earlier, it takes about 5 minutes to get through some very simple true-false questions. No financials. We don't dive into any of that kind of stuff. We don't want to know. We don't even ask what your niche is. All we want to know is what does it take to feel like buying your product? That's the test. That's the mystery of all time. That's the $1 billion question. If everybody felt like buying my product, they would. I'd be rich. I'd be successful. Problem is, what I'm doing doesn't make them buy that way. The yes test solves that problem and shows that to you. Let's go to freeyestest.com. Tell your friends to go. Anybody in business, hey, 15 minutes of your life reading your report could change your business for the rest of time. And that is a free thing. And I don't know too much in business. It's free, but that is. And people say, well, how do you make any money, Brian? You're giving away free tests. I'm not a philanthropist. Some people want more answers than the report gives. And we have a much more robust version that you can purchase for not much money at all. But for those who want, they can get more. We talked about more. There's always people that want more. And for those that love just to want to get a quick, take their blood pressure, so to speak, on their brand, you get that absolutely free. And we'll send you some emails, teach you some more stuff. We're a very giving company. Our goal is to give away 1 million of these tests. And so we're here to change the game of small business, which always gets the short end of the stick. I don't get an agency. I don't get 100 people that know more about marketing, right? I can't afford the big business consultant guru, right? I have to buy what I can afford, and I have to just guess sometimes. I'm throwing darts at a revolving dartboard. Well, what are my odds of winning? Hey, these principles we're teaching you were all, if you wonder where we got them, they came from the biggest, most successful ad campaigns in the history of Earth. And we know the emotions that sold similar products to yours. We already know that. We're just going to share them with you. So, we didn't make this up. We're literally showing you what has always worked. For the first time, you're going to see that. So go to freeyestest.com, take your test, and then we'll go from there and see if you like it. And I think you will.